Flint, can you dig it? Jackie Moon is not in the building with us tonight, unfortunately. But
What
we
did he
got
want?
Mario and myself keeping it real. We may have a special guest joining us later, crossover fans to talk hockey. So let's kick off. What do we got on the docket, my friend?
Well, I mean, interesting week in the NFL. A lot of news, especially this last couple of days. Aaron Donald, Cooper Cup getting some massive extensions these last 24 hours, and it's showing you that they're trying to run it back. They want to repeat this, so pretty exciting stuff. I don't know if you got the full details on the contracts on you right now, E.
I do. Let's see. Aaron Donald is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. He got I'm not sure. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. If he had 3 years left on his deal already and they just kind of reworked it, right? Isn't that what it
Yeah,
was?
that's correct.
So he had 3 years left on his deal, but they gave him an extra $40 million. So now it's going to be $95 million over 3 years. In my opinion, it's well deserved. We've covered Aaron Donald many times on this channel and on this show. We've debated on where he ranks all time with defensive players, and me personally, I have him number 2. You could definitely make the argument for number 1, but either way, he's an absolute beast, and I believe he deserves every penny of that contract.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about before, I mean, easily one of the top defensive players in our games, top, overall, one of the best players in our game right now. Well deserved. This man is a beast, and this guy constantly takes on triple coverage, gets just blindsided with every type of hits and still finds a way to get to the quarterback. And I think what you see a lot of times now in our game is a lot of people, and especially like on the line too, sometimes just give up. They get hit, they're kind of out of the play. And Aaron Donald just always has a nose for the ball and finds a way to get to the quarterback or make that impact just by pressuring, and it's well deserved. And, Aaron Donald said too, like, if he didn't get this contract extension, like, he could retire. He's made plenty enough money, and, he's a Super Bowl champion. So I'm glad that they were able to figure something out. And, we have him for the next 3 years. And, it's exciting as a fan, but, as an opposing team, like, the Broncos or the Cowboys having to play against him, that's probably not exciting for the next 3 years for us.
Well, I do believe the Broncos have the Rams at some point this year because I think we're playing the NFC West. I know we played the Seahawks. I'll have to double check the schedule, but I believe the Rams are on the docket. So, unfortunately for Russell Wilson, he just can't seem to get away from Aaron Donald. I will have to double check that. But Aaron Donald, man, he's to quote I don't know if he's Hall of Fame anymore, but I have him as a Hall of Famer. To quote the Hall of Famer John Gruden, he's a heck of a football player, man. So it's well deserved, and I think that the Rams are in a position to. I'm not going to say repeat as Super Bowl champions because there's been a lot of movement, particularly in the AFC with Russell Wilson and Von Miller and a few other guys. But I do think they could come out of the NFC, and I think they're probably the betting favorite, at least to win the NFC. What do you think?
Yeah, real quick on on your point from earlier, Denver at Rams on Christmas at 2:30 at SoFi. So
Oh, hello.
yeah,
Hello.
nice little Christmas present for you guys. Aaron Donald just wrapped up.
Well,
for you.
I mean, yeah. Well, so side note, real quick. It's no lie that the NBA over the last few years has been kind of struggling with ratings. And to be quite honest with you, they bring a lot of that on themselves. However, I think the NFL is kind of sniffing that, and I think they're looking at that as an opportunity because we saw Christmas games for the first time, last year or the year before, I think.
Yeah, Christmas Eve, I think.
And I do believe, and that's kind of why we're seeing games sporadically throughout the week, not necessarily on Monday or Sunday either. We've seen random days on Amazon where they're having games, and I think the NFL's kind of sniffing some weakness coming out of the NBA. So I think over the next few years, we're going to start to see Christmas become an NFL day, particularly if the NBA keeps, continuing to try and be woke, which is not going well for them. So,
Yeah.
anyway, we are playing them on Christmas. That'll be exciting. But I digress. What are your thoughts on the Rams repeating as NFC champions?
Look, man, they got majority of their pieces, and a lot of their core key players are returning again, right? Or they're still on the team. Right now it's like how we talked about. You have to go through them until proven point otherwise. I don't see how they're not the favorite at this point in time. I think a lot of teams, especially the NFC, either has regressed, has done little movement to get better, but I mean the Rams have stayed on top of it, and as well as they haven't really lost. They lost Von Miller and maybe a couple of the key people, but their main core people they've kept. So I don't see how they're not the favorites to come back. And it pains me, obviously, as a
Yeah,
Cowboys
and
fan in the NFC.
well, here's the thing about the NFL. Like, because the NBA plays so many games and baseball, they play so many games, and then they get to the playoffs and they play in series. You never know in the NFL because they only play 17 games. It used to be 16, but now it's 17, obviously. And then once you get to the playoffs, they don't play series. It's if you have a bad day, regardless of whether you're the favorite or not, you're going home. So you never know with the NFL, but it does seem, at least on paper and given their track record last year, that the Rams should be coming out of the NFC. Now, we got to wait and see. But they did sure up another piece on the offensive side, and that happened earlier today. Cooper Kupp getting a 5-year, $110 million contract, $75 million guaranteed, which I believe is the most guaranteed money given to a non-quarterback. Is that right on the offensive side?
Yes, yes, sir. That is correct.
So now Cooper Kupp, he's a terrific player, and he had a heck of a year. He's a heck of a football player, and he had a good year last year. But you're gonna throw it to Cooper Kupp when he runs the Spider 2Y banana, man. So, but here's the question, though. That's a lot of money for a guy that depends on another position, obviously in the quarterback. Is he worth that kind of dough?
Oh, he's easily worth that kind of dough, and this man was balling out with Jared Goff as his quarterback, and Jared Goff isn't Matthew Stafford by any means, and not even close to that type of level, and he was still putting up amazing numbers with him as a thrower. So I just think that speaks to the volume and level of play that he plays with, and he's easily well deserving of this contract, and how could you not? Like, this guy is a game changer for your team, and we saw it in the Super Bowl. We talked about it in our Super Bowl review episode, when it came down to those last, that fourth quarter, it was, just playing catch with Matthew Stafford. That's the ball was going mainly to him. He was looking to him the whole entire time, and when it came time to show up, he was there and providing for his team. So, to me, it's just a no-brainer that you had to pay this guy, and he's well deserving of it.
Well, listen, I agree with what you're saying there. When you get to your second and third contracts in professional sports, you're getting paid not necessarily for what, well, you're not necessarily, but you're getting paid for what you have done in the past and not necessarily what you're going to do. Is Cooper Kupp going to be worth a 5-year commitment and $75 million guaranteed going forward? Let's be real. Probably not, because in the NFL, guys are getting dinged up a lot. And, if Matthew Stafford goes down, then that affects Cooper Kupp. If they have leads a lot of the time, that also affects Cooper Kupp because they'll be putting the ball on the ground a little more. But based on what he's done in the past, I definitely think that it's well deserved, and he got rewarded for having maybe the greatest year. I mean, probably is the greatest year in receiving history, not just in terms of statistics, but then the fact that, as you said, when it mattered most, the last drive of the Super Bowl, it was all Cooper Kupp. He had 2 touchdowns in that game, and he delivered on the last drive, and he was named MVP of the biggest event in sports. So it's definitely deserving in terms of rewarding him for sure. And I've said this before. I've been following Cooper Kupp for a while. He went to Eastern Washington, played on the red turf, and I'm happy for him. Not a lot of guys coming out of Eastern getting that kind of love. So happy for Coop. Where would you rank him in terms of receivers in the game today, though? Just out of curiosity.
Right now, easily put him top 3. Yeah, I put him top 3 on my list at least. I just think his
All right, so then
dynamic of
here's
the game and go ahead.
well, I agree. I think top three is accurate. Now, here's the question: Who's the other two? Who's the other two with him?
That one I would have to think a little more hard on. I mean, Tyreek Hill, just for his speed. But now he's
You're
playing with
probably
Tua,
right
though.
on that.
So, you know what I mean? But I think as of right now, his speed kills. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't see this type of speed. And, that's why these short passes with Patrick Mahomes was great, because you just had to dump it off to him and, watch him do the rest. He just burned everybody afterwards. Like, Tyreek Hill was
Mm-hmm.
never like a deep threat, like challenge for the ball vertically. All he had to do was just outrun you. So I mean, he's a pure sprinter. Like, throw it back to my track people. So Tyreek Hill for sure, and him. I would have to think on the third one a little more. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Obviously, kind of Julio's kind of digressed here in the last couple years. Odell's kind of taken a step back, and not, a lot of times it's just the way it is. Guys are getting older, they get dinged up occasionally, and you know,
I mean, I
not
think
throwing it.
Devontae Adams.
I'm not sure I'd put him top three. A lot of his success has come because of number 12. So, he's
Okay.
obviously a good player, and he's probably a top 10. I don't know if I'm committed to Devontae Adams as a top 3 receiver. Um,
Stephon
Now I
Diggs.
would he could be one, because he's done it with Kirk Cousins and Josh Allen. Obviously he's in a better situation now, but I think Stephon Diggs is probably. I think that's probably a solid choice, to be honest with you. I mean, are we missing any obvious ones here?
I mean,
We,
Jamar
we probably are. I
Chase.
can't think of all the top receivers off the. Jamar Chase could. I mean, only even after only
He made
one
it.
year, he could be in
I
that
know, but he made
conversation
a
already.
statement. He made a statement this past year. DeAndre Hopkins has
He sure
proven
did.
himself. You know,
Yeah, they got a few. They
Justin
got a few
Jefferson
guys in
from
Arizona.
Minnesota. So, I mean, even Debo
Yeah, he's not
Samuel.
top three.
He's a little everything, but you know, man's a baller.
I'm not sure where to put Debo Samuel, but in terms of weapons, he's probably number 1 or 2 behind a healthy Christian McCaffrey. But yeah, Debo Samuel, he's another kind of specimen to watch. He's
Yeah,
a very unique player, and he deserves to be paid as such. So, um,
well, I think too we're getting to that point, in especially in our ages here, where those type, like you said, Julio and Mike Evans, like those type of receivers, they're starting to kind of get lower in their playing styles, or they're not as good as they kind of used to be. And we're seeing these young cats now kind of stepping up. So it's kind of interesting seeing this shift of wave going on here now.
what's funny is just based on-field production and route running and footwork and hands and work along the sideline. I still believe that Antonio Brown, talent-wise, is a top 3 receiver in the NFL. I truly believe that he's very special on the field. Now his problem is that his head is all over the place and nobody knows what he's going to do on any given day. Hence why he's not in the NFL anymore. But I honestly think that if he had the kind of mentality and the head on his shoulders as a Russell Wilson type, I think Antonio Brown is a top 3 receiver in the NFL. But there's more to it than just physical ability. You got to be able to put complete sentences together. You got to be able to stay out of trouble. You have to be able to. You got to be able to be dependent on, which he is not able to be dependent on. However, he's a terrific football player and he's extremely skilled. So I would have to agree with either Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins, to be honest with you. I know AJ Green is also in Arizona now. He's kind of again he's getting up there in age, and he's
Mm-hmm.
there was one time where AJ Green was in that conversation, and he might be a good year away from being in that conversation again. But I'd have to agree. I think Stephon Diggs probably would have just a slight edge over DeAndre Hopkins, just based on the fact that he's put up big numbers in two different spots, one of which was an inconsistent quarterback in Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to say he's a bad quarterback because he can wing it around, but definitely inconsistent. It's kind of the story of
He's a
his
game
career.
manager. Is really what Kirk Cousins is.
He's a little more than that. I think he can wing it around and he can make some throws. It's just the problem is who's he throwing it to? Is it the guys in his jersey or is it guys in the other jersey? So um, I think he's a little more than a game manager, but not bad for a guy who was picked in the third round to be the backup for Robert Griffin III. He's made a nice little career and he's gotten paid. So Kirk Cousins definitely an overachiever for sure. So
Mm-hmm.
we touched on the Broncos earlier here, and that's my team. Always showing love to the Broncos. I'm sure you saw the news over the last couple of days. Broncos were sold officially to Rob Walton and company. Because there's a few other people that we talked about, but mainly Rob Walton, the heir to the Walmart fortune, just adding more wealth to that family. Sold for a North American record of $4.65 billion. What are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, pocket change. Well, on that.
That's walking around money. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's nothing. My other thoughts was when I used to work for Walmart, all those times they didn't give me a pay raise was probably they're saving money for this type of a move. So
Well, don't
I
give.
like to think I like to think I'm part of the ownership group of this. Like I have some type of a piece in it. So.
Don't get me started on Walmart, okay? Like,
Yeah. But no, in seriousness, obviously record sale, and if you're going to buy a team, why not the Broncos? Who, obviously the last 5-6 years haven't been the best, but historically the Broncos are one of the best franchises in the NFL, and they're proven winners. And I just think that's a lot of money, but it's great. Like and hopefully, obviously, Rob Walton and his group here are easily the richest richest owners in the whole entire NFL, right? They're rich in the second place. They're the richest people. So hopefully that plays well for Broncos and Broncos country and what it does for our community here. And it's pretty exciting.
yeah, I mean, so a couple things here. First of all, I don't know if you're ever going to get a return on that investment. I mean, back in the day when Pat Bowlen bought the team for, whatever it was, $60-80 million or whatever it was back then. I mean, that's a terrific return on investment, right? You're talking
So
about.
I actually saw the number on it today. He got 60 times his initial investment.
There you go. So now, again, people that buy sports teams nowadays, I don't believe they're interested in a big return on investment. I think they're just doing it because they can. Because I don't.
They want to be part of a club.
Right. Exactly. I don't think you're ever going to see a return on investment when you're spending $4.5 billion to purchase a sports organization. But here's the thing: he's got big shoes to fill. Obviously, over the last few years, since Pat Bowlen passed away from Alzheimer's disease, the organization's leadership has been, not good because his kids are all, human nature coming out, suing each other, trying to get, what their dad worked for. Everybody's trying to get their piece. But anyway, Pat Bowlen himself, though, he turned under Pat Bowlen, the Broncos had more Super Bowl appearances than they had losing seasons. Pat Bowlen's leadership is notorious around Denver and around Dove Valley. He was the kind of leader that he didn't overstep his boundaries, and yet his office door was always open. You know what I mean? So he's, and guys also, he was legendary for also being a beast in the 5K walks and whatnot. He was also a legend on the Stairmaster at Dove Valley. You always saw clips of Pat Bowlen going hard on the Stairmaster. So, and I mean, you laugh, but guys see that. I mean, that's the boss.
I mean, I think
so
it's cool.
when you see the boss, you know what I mean? Yeah. So when you see the boss working like that, I mean, it sets a precedent. And I don't think Rob Walton's that kind of guy. However, he does seem to have a open checkbook, which that'll be good. But he's got big shoes to fill. So I am happy that the Broncos finally have some stability with the ownership, because that's been a huge issue in Denver over the last few years. I mean, say what you want to about the quarterback play and changing out coaches. Every successful organization, whether it be in sports or not, starts at the top, right? And when you have leadership that is just in a total chaotic mess, that trickles down. I don't care what anybody says. So it's good now that at least they have some stability, and the Bolin family and all his spoiled kids can now split up their $4.5 billion amongst one another. And
I believe each one was getting over $500,000 or $500 million, right? Yeah, I think.
each
I
each
think
each
that's.
child's getting $500 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, so enjoy your $500 million that you got, plus whatever trust fund that Daddy set up for you, and go on about your life. But it'll be interesting to see, because now there's a lot of talk about a new stadium and whatnot, and people are kind of hit or miss about it. Mile High is a little outdated compared to some of these newer stadiums like SoFi and where the Raiders play, and obviously Jerry's World and the place U.S. Bank that they just built in Minneapolis. So it's a little outdated. However, you asked me this earlier in the week. Absolutely love going to games in Mile High, and I know a lot of people are upset because Mile High right now is right off of I-25 and Colfax. I mean, it's right downtown, and
Hmm.
a lot of people, because the new stadium will be out by the airport, which is good for opposing teams, because anyone that's ever been to DIA, Denver International Airport, knows that it's literally in the middle of nowhere. It's the second largest airport in the country, and there's nothing around it. And it takes you 20 minutes just to get out of the airport and onto a main road. Um, so I know that's a big issue with opposing teams. They don't like coming to Denver for multiple reasons, and that's one of them, because it takes them forever to get off the plane to their hotel. So that'll be good for them. However, dude, there's nothing like a game at Mile High. I mean, there's no bad seat in there. In fact, I think some of the better seats in the stadium are up top, because you feel like how the Bulls designed. You feel like you're right on top of it. And the old Mile High, even before Empower Field, was right next door. It's the new parking lot. They have a little memorial set up there. I know you've seen it. So
Yeah.
there's some nostalgia there, and I know people are kind of conflicted, but they do have a lot of land out there by the airport, and there's plenty of room to build a mega facility. The other thing too is that the practice facility is in Dove Valley right now, which is not anywhere near downtown where they actually play their games. And like these major facilities that these owners are building now, they include the practice facility, so everything is just kind of in one
Together.
area.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, there's some talk about it, but it's kind of, I understand why they would do it, but for me, it would be kind of sad, because I've been a Broncos fan my whole life, and I've seen games in the old Mile High. I can't even tell you how many new, as a former season ticket holder, I've seen countless games inside Empower Field. We had tickets when they won the Super Bowl in 2015. Went to every home game that year. So we'll see. But it's good to have some stability.
Yeah. I mean, and let's be honest here. Like Walton, and I think it's what his cousin or something like that's married to Cronky.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also
I think it's
talks
a
that like
sister, if I'm not mistaken.
it's something like, yeah, I know it's somehow related, but you know, there's talks where even they could team up and maybe they take over the Elitch area, like Elitch Gardens area, maybe build their stadium there next to the Pepsi Center.
Well,
But
I think they already own that, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, they do.
I think
Yeah,
Stan
Kroenke
Kroenke
owns
owns.
it. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
there's talks about maybe they can work something out. But I think the big thing right now and going forward is you got to figure out what kind of owner you're going to be. Right? Are you a hands-on owner? Are you going to go through your people type of owner? Right? Because it can go both ways here, and like we've seen it. Me specifically as a Cowboys fan, right? Jerry Jones is a very hands-on owner. Needs to be a part of every single decision that has to go on with his and look how that's kind of paid out. He has a big pocketbook as well, but he has to make all those decisions, and right now it's not working out for the Cowboys. Since what '94, since they won the last Super Bowl. You know, Kim Walton, is he going to be that type of owner, or is he actually going to trust his GM, which George Payton has proven he knows his stuff, and he's built this roster, and he's made the Broncos made smart decisions. Are you going to can you trust not can you trust him, but like are you going to put your trust in him and make sure that he continues doing his job, right? And that's going to be the interesting part in this new ownership and how they're going to go about that day-to-day business.
Well, so I agree with what you just said 100%. And here's the thing. We just were talking about how the ownership has been in disarray for the last few years and it's trickled down. We're in agreement on that. However, underneath ownership, there's already pieces in play here. You have Joe Ellis as the CEO, who's done a terrific job. You have John Elway, and I'm not really sure what kind of role he's in now. I know he's less hands-on with
I
the
think
personnel.
they're calling it an ambassador role now.
Yeah, and advisor, I think pretty much is what it is. But that's a much better role for him as opposed to being a personnel guy because he hasn't really shown the ability to draft guys. He got some free agents to sign. 7-8 years ago just because he's John Elway and it's the Denver Broncos. But I think an advisor role is a much better position for John to be in. And then, like you said, George Paton, I mean, he's just hit it out of the ballpark since he's been GM. So you have pieces in play. Now, with new ownership, who knows if Joe Ellis will stick around? That could be, I think Joe Ellis's job is 50-50 right now just because of new ownership. Owners like to bring in their own people. But
I heard he's stepping down,
I think
he's stepping away after the sale.
Joe Ellis is?
Yeah, I heard this. Like the sale was like the last part he was going to do, and he was going to step away.
Well, I wonder how much of that is internal, but I mean, maybe that's all on him. Hopefully, they're not pressuring him out because Joe Ellis has done a terrific job. But I think George Paton's job is pretty much a lock. I mean, Rob Walton would have to be a total and complete blithering idiot to get rid of George. I believe it's Patton. Excuse me.
Whatever. I can never butcher his last name all the time.
Yeah, after the job that he's done. So we'll see. It's exciting times in Denver with the new ownership and talks of a new stadium, and obviously, George Patton and Russell Wilson and Javonte Williams and Jerry Jeudy, hopefully staying healthy and out of trouble, and Pat Surtain. So I mean, things are definitely on the up and up for the Denver Broncos here. So
for sure.
Hopefully,
exciting times here.
Yeah, hopefully we can turn that into on-field success as well.
Yep. Amen on that one. It is 8:00. You want to get on our hockey segment here?
Oh yeah. Is our guest ready to come on, or?
Yes, sir. So I'll admit him here. But like you said, you've said it many times. The fans have asked for more hockey talk and actual hockey talk. So, we searched the realms of Denver and found us a hockey person that we know personally as well. But we're going to talk a little more Avs. I know you paid attention a lot more to the finals this come around. So. Let me see if I can get him in here.
Oh, I'm queued up and ready to go to talk about the Avalanche. Let me tell you what, I've been watching nothing else other than the Avs. So, hey,
how's it going?
What's up, Dane?
What's up, Dane?
All right, Dane, tell us a little about yourself and your hockey expertise here and what you've been up to.
Honestly, lately, just got done with the hockey season, so back in a seasonal position at Nike. And honestly, I've been just kind of hanging in there. Just got back from Vegas, so a well-deserved vacation. But when it comes to hockey expertise,
there you go, very nice.
Just kind of grew up watching the game. Got involved with officiating about 7 or 8 years ago, and stuck with it and learned a lot just through being around the game and working high levels into junior hockey here in the United States.
Damn.
Dane, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but Mario was telling me that your ultimate goal is to be a NHL referee. Is that correct?
To work up the ranks is a lot of time what we call the trenches, which is just like the North American Hockey League, the United States Hockey League, and working our way up there to just, getting to that, ultimate pinnacle and what a lot of guys dream of doing. And so it's just a lot of work, a lot of just sometimes bad hockey, sometimes just physical hockey where it's like you're getting like personally I've taken punches to the face just being in the crossfire.
Yeah, you got to be
I love it.
you got to be a tough SOB to get in the middle of those guys, man. Hockey players are built differently. Those are some tough dudes. Um, so Dane, I know your time is limited here, and we appreciate you being with us. Why don't you just, before we get into the Avs specifically, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you think the postseason's going here?
Honestly, I think this postseason here in the NHL is one of just good storylines. Like with the Avs, you have McDavid and McKinnon, who are two of the most skilled hockey players that the league has now. You have the Tampa Bay Lightning going for their third straight Stanley Cup, and you just have a lot of young players starting to reach what could be, their full potential in the league, and the storylines I feel like are great ones that we've seen so far. And if the Lightning make it and face the Avalanche here in the final, it's another great storyline. And if it's the Rangers, even then, with how short their rebuild came to be, just like with the Avs, it's going to be a lot of young players fighting for that Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's quite a few good storylines, and like you said, Tampa Bay going for their third cup. And even if it's the Rangers that pull it out, having the Avs play a couple Stanley Cup games in Madison Square Garden, that would be. They still
Yes.
play at the Garden, right? Or do they? Okay, yeah, that would be sweet. So, I'm so pumped for the Avalanche right now. Our neighborhood just goes wild when the games are on, and it's just been an absolute blast. So, talk to me specifically about the Avalanche, and like you said, you got maybe the two best players at their position right now going up against each other in these Western Conference Finals. I mean, obviously, there's some other guys that play that center position pretty well, but man, watching these guys speed and how they handle the puck is just unbelievable, man. So talk to us about the style of play that the Avalanche that they play with, and what you enjoy
With
watching.
the Avalanche, a lot of it is kind of run and gun. And we saw that with the Western Conference Finals and McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, especially in games 1 and 4, where it was just nonstop scoring, and which the NHL loves. And I'm sure all the fans love to see on, like, not to hate on the Eastern Conference final matchup with Tampa Bay and the Rangers, but you have two solid goalies there where it's kind of who's going to score first and who's going to score last kind of situation where the the Oilers and the Avs with game 4 it was back and forth. The Avs go up, they go down 2, they go back up, and then it goes into overtime and the rest is history. But um, Nathan McKinnon and the Avs, they have that run and gun offense, but at the same time, we saw it with the St. Louis Blues and a little bit against the Oilers in game 2 and 3, where they're still able to fall back defensively and play good, smart hockey rather than just run it down their opponent's throat.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the Avalanche defensemen they're really good at taking angles and, like you said, not getting too ahead of themselves. One thing that's really caught my eye about the Avalanche here is just how quick they are in transition from defense to offense, and then their ability to just kind of attack the neutral zone, man, and then get into the zone and I mean 40, 50 shots on goal a game. I mean, it's crazy to watch, and just their ability to transition has been just really fun hockey to watch.
Yeah, like a lot of people, especially with football, a lot of people say defense wins championships. In my opinion, a lot of for hockey at least, and NBA, MLB, offense will win you more championships because while you can have a good solid pitcher, a good solid goalie, at the end of the day, you have to score to win. And the only sport where you can score on defense is football. So defense in football could win you championships, but here in the NHL and with the Avs, they strung they put together just a solid offense that can take on who I think the anyone in the National Hockey League and give them a run for their money no matter what, just because of their offensive threats. We saw it a couple like the maybe the past 3 or 4 years where we didn't have a solid goalie, didn't have solid defensemen, or just overall defense, and we still managed to make playoffs just off of the offense alone. Joe Sakic in what is the 2016-17 season kept together Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Gabriel Landeskog and used that as a core and built around that. And in that season, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but the Avalanche were historically bad prior to, I don't even know when, like the Washington Capitals when they came into the league um, back in what I think is the 90s, but historically bad. And he took the team around next season, made the playoffs, didn't get out of the first round, but even still, that turnaround was historic in its own right, and it's only gotten better.
Speaking, so Dane, like you're talking about defense here. Talk to me about the goalie situation here, right? I know there's kind of a lot
Great
of talks
question.
here whether your starting goalie should get his job back. Is it going to stay to the backup? What's your opinion
I
on that?
thought prior to game 4, if Kemper came back from whatever undisclosed injury he has, rumor is that it's his eye acting up again from the round 1 against Nashville when he took the stick through the mask. That's what the rumor is. But personally, I thought that it was going to be uh, Darcy Kemper's net as soon as he was able to retake it. But he was the backup for game 4, and so I don't know if it was coach's decision to roll with the hot hand or if it was just they had, their own conversation between the goalies, because sometimes it's ego gets the best of one or the other and kind of whatever. But it seems like it's going to be Francouz going, at least starting in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and I'm sure um, Darcy Kemper's okay with that because he took himself out of game 1 against the Oilers. So I'm not sure that there's going to be any egos in the locker room. So whoever gets the nod, gets the start, I think is going to be in it for the long run.
Yeah, no time for egos this time of year, and the Avalanche again. One thing that's impressed me is they don't really get too up or down emotionally. So that's been good to see. I see Nathan MacKinnon getting. I mean, obviously the team's best player. He gets checked all the time, pushed to the ice, and he just seems to have a cool head about him. So obviously with him, you touched on a couple guys earlier. I love watching Mikko Rantanen play. He is a terrific two-way hockey player. I mean, what was that game 3 where he made that diving defensive stop with his bare hand and then scored the open net goal? That was, I mean, he's really fun to watch, and our depth is also really impressive. And I think having two guys in goal, either one A and one B, obviously not a bad thing for any coach. So, what are your thoughts, and how big of an impact is it going to be if Kadri can't go? Because he's been maybe the best Av in the playoffs so
I
far.
think the Avs, with their depth, can do without him. I'm I'm hoping that he's able to come back just because he's so good. But at the end of the day, I'm not necessarily worried about it. Um, just because of the depth. Like the Avs, I think this season more than any of the previous seasons, they can they can withstand the injuries that the playoffs naturally bring and just keep rolling with it. And of course, you're going to have guys who play through injuries. I believe I think it was Darnell Nurse of the Oilers came out and said that he played through um, like an MCL tear or sprain or something like that, where those hockey players, they're tough enough to play through those injuries. And I'm sure that there are other Avs who are playing through injuries as well that have not been disclosed yet. Um, and so just because of that, I'm not necessarily worried about it, but it would still be a big help to get him back. And sweeping the Oilers can only help us because it allows for all of our players to rest up And now that the Eastern Conference Finals is guaranteed to go 6 games, that's only going to help us in the long run as well. Because I'm sure that the NHL is going to give those or that team that comes out of there a break, and it's going to be at least another 3 days if I had to take a guess, and then the Avs are going to, I think, just take it to them.
You're not worried about potentially having too much time off and losing the hot hand that they have going?
Not necessarily. I think that maybe the Avs come out a little flat-footed in the first period, but having game one here in Denver, I think the altitude might catch up to one of the two teams who plays at sea level, and it's going to catch up to them. And I think even if the Avs are down coming into the third period, their altitude training and that actual home ice advantage is going to pay dividends for them.
Who would you rather see in the Stanley Cup Finals?
Personally, I'd rather see the Rangers. I don't think they have the experience like the Avs have, and honestly, the Lightning just scare me. They're looking for their third cup. They've been there, done that before. Both teams have hot goalies, so I think it's a toss-up there. But at the end of the day, the Lightning are big and bad and can bruise the Avs up. And so I'd rather see New York just because, just at the end of the day, I feel like we have more depth and more experience in the playoffs. Against the Oilers, their coach is an interim coach. It's his first time ever having that position. You can tell at points in the series that he didn't know what to do, and he was just being outcoached, even with the talent that the Oilers have.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think I would much rather see the Rangers for all the reasons that you just said. I want to get your thoughts on something here. You think a 1-game suspension for Kane was that an appropriate punishment for that hit on Kadri? I'm a big Kadri fan. I also really like how he plays hockey. You think that was an appropriate punishment, or should it have been longer, or not at
I
all?
think that 1 game was definitely warranted. Could the Department of Player Safety gone more? Probably, knowing Kane's history. But I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, I feel like the NHL had some say in it, assuming that the Avs were going to sweep, and it was just like 1 game is enough, and that way then they don't have to worry about it carrying over into next season. But even then, that's putting on a tinfoil hat and whatnot. But I've seen those exact hits happen in games of my own where you just know, like, it's a dirty hit, and it's something that every kid knows not to do. If you see numbers, you have to hold up, and Kane didn't, and I'm sure that he knew exactly what he was doing, even if he says that he didn't. At every single person who plays hockey knows that that's a lie. Like, he went.
Yeah, that's one of the most dangerous plays in all of sports for sure. So that's just nonsense. I don't buy that for 1 second.
And especially with his history, there's no way in hell that was just an accident. He could have gone harder, but he still gave him a little bit of a shove to send him into the boards. Like,
and he had been chippy in the first 2 games anyway after taking L's kind of towards the end of the game and whatnot. So I'm not buying for 1 second that he didn't know what he was doing there. So I think his emotions got the best of him, and he does have a history, but things happen. So, but I think 1 game was probably appropriate, but definitely not what we want to see for sure. Rio, anything to add, brother?
Well, I mean, you guys know more about hockey than I know about hockey. We've gone through this. I mean, there's no hockey really where I come from, but,
You tell me short Mexicans don't play hockey in Kansas or what?
At least not in my area. maybe in Wichita or something. I don't know, I don't know what else people do on their farms, but no, I mean, like I said, I'm still obviously trying to learn the game, and I've been to a couple Avs games with Dane and our homie Chris as well. But from what I'm seeing, at least from what I'm watching, though, I mean, this Avs team is exciting. These guys are fast. I love that they have no quit in them, so like especially that game 4 in the third period, we usually could have just wrapped it up there, said, hey, we're taking this back to Denver and,
Right.
we're going to play our series at home and win it at home. But, these guys didn't give up, and I love that. And I love seeing a team that's always willing to fight to the very end. And, these guys have a little bit of swagger to them and they're hot, like you guys are saying. And, it's an exciting time here for these Avalanche, and hopefully we can bring it home.
Yeah, it'll be a party in Denver if we can bring the Stanley Cup home. I mean, I'm going out and watching these games at the bar just because it's been so much fun being around people while we're making a run. I mean, we hadn't been to the conference final since 2002. We haven't been to a Stanley Cup final since 2001. So people are excited, man, and rightly so, because we love our Avalanche, and quite frankly, there's nothing really quite like playoff hockey, man. It hits a little different, and it has been an absolute blast to watch. So, Dane, you have any final thoughts?
I think everything's been said that needs to be said, thus far. Like, the Avs have that Mamba mentality of work's not done. They celebrated a little bit.
Amen, brother.
Getting the conference final over with. But after that, I think it's all back to work.
I do have one question, actually. And I don't know, Dan, if you know, I mean, probably Dan, you might know. I don't know if you do know. I did see when they were doing the trophy presentation, they only had a couple hands on it. They didn't raise it up. Is there a reason you don't do that? Because, a lot of your sports teams, like soccer and stuff like that.
So you raise the cup.
So there's also a superstition with the conference final trophies that you don't even touch it, because it's not the trophy that you want. It's just, here's something, whatever. But going back to 96 and 01, when we won the conference finals as well, Joe Sakic carried it around a little bit and even told the guys this year, touch the fucking thing. It's at...
Yeah, I was curious because, you see in a lot of sports, even, conference finals, obviously that's what this was, parading the trophy around, lifting it. I was just very curious. I just saw them, just touch it, and that was it. They just left it on the table and skated away.
I wouldn't be surprised if especially if the Rangers win the conference finals, they don't even touch it. There's a superstition, you don't even touch it. But that being said, Avs have touched it all 3 times so far. And at least 2 times we've won the Stanley Cup, so I don't think it's a bad omen at all. I think it's...
There you go.
I love how they handled it, to be honest with you, because, they touched it and they took pictures with it, but again, it's not what you want, so there's no reason to make a huge deal about it. But I think that in any sport, superstition's only a thing if you let it be a thing, you know what I mean? So I think they handled it perfectly, actually. So I'm in.
You celebrate a little bit with it, and then just go back to work.
Business. Yep.
Amen.
That's exactly right. Cool. Well, Dane, man, we appreciate you coming on and chopping it up with us. We have a lot of people particularly in our TikTok, leaving us comments about how we haven't been touching on hockey too much. So it's good to get somebody on here that really knows the game and loves the game, as you clearly do, man. So we appreciate you coming on. And on that note, we're going to call it a day here at the Crossover Podcast. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. We did cover a few things today in terms of contracts in the NFL, as well as the Avalanche and hockey. And then, you know what to do. Punch a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notification, share this video, and we will talk to you later.